So a lot of times I talk to people about how much I love this business and how much it has changed my family's life. One thing that I don't talk about too much, but has actually been the most impactful, is what it has actually done for my son's health. So, before I start this video, I want to go ahead and say that I'm not giving anyone any medical advice. So I want to, go ahead and wash my name clear of that. I'm simply stating what I, as a mother, chose to do for my son and what has dramatically improved his health. So here is our story. So, my son Memphis, when he was 2 years old, it was actually about 2 months after I started this business, he was hospitalized because he was very sick and he had pneumonia. And what happened after that was he never really recovered. He remained sick constantly and was always on antibiotics. By the time he would get off of antibiotics, and about 3 days later, he'd be really sick and in emergency care again. So for months, my husband and I were taking him to the doctor about 3 times a week. And about one of those times, he would be in emergency care. He would go on antibiotics for a while and breathing treatments and you name it, and he would start to get better. And then he'd get really sick again. So this was hard. I missed work for about 2 months because he was so sick. And finally, thanks to this business, I was able to stay home with him. But we took him to a specialist and did a bunch of blood work. And what came about was that he had an immune deficiency. So his immune system was functioning very, very low. He had very low immunoglobulins. So we weren't able to take him to the grocery store. We weren't able to take him to the playground. We weren't able to take him anywhere. He was like Bubble Boy, and they had him on a constant course of antibiotics to try to create a false immune system. I can remember a time that we just wanted to take him in the backyard to play because he was a little kid with a lot of energy and he was cooped up in the house all the time. And we took him into the backyard, and by that night he was severely ill. And we were up all night all the time with him doing breathing treatments because it affected his lungs. Joe would sleep on the floor with him because we were so terrified that he was going to stop breathing. He'd spike high fevers, and as soon as he did, we had to get him into emergency care immediately. So it was a really stressful time. I can't recall a time in my life that I've ever been so scared as when Memphis was so sick. May would have made it a year. The end of May, he got very ill, and we had to take him to emergency care again. And the doctors wanted to put him on IV treatments to get immunoglobulins. So he would go every month for these IV treatments. And I just couldn't stand to see this little boy who already had no freedom, didn't get to play, didn't get to do anything. I couldn't stand to see him then go on to IV treatments. And I had heard about amazing things that the greens had done for people, but I knew it was for adults. So I looked at the ingredients list and I did some research and I asked some doctors, and I just said, screw it. I was like, I'm going to try this. And I started giving him the greens twice per day. And he went 3 weeks without being sick, which was the longest he had ever gone. And then after 3 weeks, I think he had like a cough. So it wasn't bad. It was just a cough. And then it just kept going. He kept going longer and longer times without being sick. And he hadn't even gone a week without being sick. So I remember when he hit the 1 week mark, my husband and I were afraid to even talk about it because we didn't want to jinx it. And then when, we hit the 1 month mark, we just would look at each other like, don't say anything. Like, it's good, but let's not talk about it. And we just hit the 1 year mark this last May. He only went to the emergency room once in that year, and it was because he swallowed a quarter. So it had nothing to do with him being sick. He got the typical colds and coughs that other kids get, but he has been completely healthy for 1 year because of the greens. When I took him to see his specialist, I told his specialist that he was in preschool and that he was going to the park and he was playing. And, this summer we've been going to the pool, and his specialist's jaw dropped to the ground and he was like, "What are you doing?" He looked at me like, "Are you trying to kill this kid?" And I was like, "No." I said, "He's completely healthy. He does fine. I give him his greens and he's good." Now, I did run out of his greens, and he went about 4 days without his greens, and he you could hear it brewing in his lungs. He started to get sick again, and then his greens came in the mail, and it knocked it right out, and he was fine. And it's been life-changing for us. It's been life-changing for Memphis. I don't know if any of you have ever had a kid that's so sick they can't play, or is, crying all the time because they're always at the doctor and they're in pain. But it's the most helpless feeling you can feel. So to have my child be so incredibly sick and now be a completely normal kid that you would never guess has been through anything. You would never guess that he had this, or that he still has this immune deficiency. You would never know it. So I just wanted to share, like I said, some kind of an emotional topic, and maybe that's part of the reason why I've held off on sharing it. But, if it can help somebody else, that's what it's all about. So that's our story.